It was a quiet morning in the small town of Willowbrook, a place where everyone knew each other's names, and life moved at a calm, unhurried pace. The streets were still mostly empty, with only a few early risers walking to work or taking their dogs for a morning stroll. In the middle of the town, surrounded by tall, old oak trees, stood St. Mary's Church. Its white walls gleamed softly under the gentle sunlight, and the tall steeple reached toward the sky, a familiar landmark for anyone passing by. Inside, the air was calm and slightly cool, filled with the faint scent of old wood and polished pews. The church had been standing there for over 100 years, and every corner, every wooden bench, seemed to hold the memories of generations of townspeople who had come there for comfort, hope, and guidance. Father Michael, the priest of St. Mary's, was a man in his late 40s. He was not tall, but he carried himself with a quiet confidence that made people naturally respect him. His face, framed by gentle lines from years of smiling and worry alike, gave an impression of warmth and kindness. His eyes, soft yet observant, seemed to notice things that others often missed, the way a parishioner struggled to light a candle, or how a young child looked nervous as they stepped into the church for the first time. He wore simple robes, always clean and neatly pressed, and moved with a calm, deliberate pace as he went about his morning tasks. On this particular morning, Father Michael was inside the church earlier than usual. He walked slowly through the aisles, adjusting the hymn books, checking the candles, and straightening the altar cloth. He hummed a quiet tune under his breath, a habit he had picked up over the years, and the sound echoed softly against the high ceiling. He paused for a moment in the middle of the church, looking around at the sunlight streaming through the stained glass windows. The colors painted the floor in shades of red, blue, and gold, creating a magical pattern that changed as the sun moved. It was a sight he never tired of, and he often used it as a small reminder to appreciate the beauty in everyday life, even in simple, quiet moments. Even though the church was empty at that hour, Father Michael felt a comforting sense of presence. He always believed that a church was more than just a building, it was a space where people could connect to something greater, and where kindness, forgiveness, and hope were always welcome. He moved to the altar and lit the candles, their tiny flames flickering as if to greet him. Each movement was careful and purposeful, a reflection of his respect for the traditions he had been entrusted with. While the work may have seemed routine to an outsider, it held a deep sense of meaning for him, and he carried out each task with the devotion of someone who truly cared. Outside the church, the town was slowly coming to life. Shopkeepers opened their stores, the smell of freshly baked bread drifted from the bakery nearby, and children's laughter could be heard as they walked to school. But inside St. Mary's, time seemed to slow down. The quiet, the sunlight, and the faint smell of incense created a feeling of calm that could touch anyone who entered. Father Michael walked to the confessional booth, adjusting a small cushion and straightening the curtain. He often thought about the people who would sit there later, sharing their worries, fears, or joys, and he felt a quiet responsibility to offer guidance without judgment. As he continued his morning preparations, he occasionally looked out the tall church windows. The town seemed so peaceful, almost as if nothing could ever disturb its calm rhythm. But Father Michael knew that life was not always this serene. He had seen his parishioners face difficulties, moments of sorrow, and times when they needed more than just words, they needed a presence, a guiding hand, or simply someone to listen. That thought made him focus even more on preparing the church, ensuring it was a place where anyone could feel safe, understood, and welcome. Despite his familiarity with the church and its routines, Father Michael never performed his duties mechanically. Every action was thoughtful, from the way he arranged the hymn books to how he polished the altar candles. He had a quiet way of noticing details others might overlook, like a leaf that had drifted in from the garden outside or a small crack in the wooden floor that needed attention. For him, these little things mattered because they reflected respect, for the space, for the people who came there, and for the traditions he upheld. By the time the first parishioners arrived, Father Michael was already at the entrance, greeting each one with a warm smile and a kind word. To them, he was not just a priest, but a friend, a guide, and a source of comfort. And though he did not know it yet, this ordinary morning would soon reveal something extraordinary about him, captured quietly in ways even he could never imagine. What Father Michael did not know, as he went about his quiet morning routine, was that this ordinary day was about to take a remarkable turn. Hidden in the corner of the church, almost invisible to anyone who might glance in that direction, a tiny camera had been carefully placed. Its lens was small, unassuming, and completely unnoticed, blending perfectly with the shadows of the old wooden beams above. The camera had been installed for a local documentary project, a team hoping to capture the simple, everyday life inside the church, moments of sincerity, unexpected humor, and human kindness. They had no idea that what they were about to witness would be far more extraordinary than anything they had imagined. The device was silent, mechanical, and patient, recording every movement without interruption. Its presence was so subtle that even a sharp eye could have missed it. A spider crawling across the wall, a flicker of sunlight through the stained glass, the gentle sway of the candles in the morning breeze, all of it fell into the camera's unblinking view. Yet the real story, the reason the team had set it up, was not in the quiet beauty of the space, but in capturing the priest himself. They wanted to see the authentic man behind the robes, someone who had dedicated his life to faith, service, and compassion, and they had no doubt that the footage would reveal something special. Father Michael continued his preparations, completely unaware of the mechanical observer. He moved through the pews, straightening hymn books, checking candles, and adjusting the altar cloth with meticulous care. Every action he took was deliberate, performed with the kind of quiet attention that only comes from years of devotion. He didn't notice the way the camera lens seemed to follow him, catching each subtle gesture, the way he paused to fix a crooked candle, the gentle way he ran his hand over the altar rail, as if blessing it with silent respect. The camera recorded everything without judgment, capturing reality as it unfolded. And in that reality, small, unnoticed moments often carried more meaning than grand gestures. A pigeon had wandered in through an open window, fluttering nervously around the pews, and Father Michael shooed it gently toward the door, speaking softly as if calming a frightened child. The camera caught the warmth in his voice, the calm patience in his movements, moments that no visitor had seen before but that revealed the essence of who he truly was. Then something even more unexpected happened. A young boy, maybe 8 or 9, wandered into the church carrying a small, tattered notebook. He looked around nervously, unsure whether he should sit or leave. Father Michael noticed him immediately, offering a reassuring smile and a nod, silently inviting him to stay. The camera captured the boy's hesitant steps, the way his shoulders relaxed as he realized he was welcome. It captured Father Michael's small acts of kindness, adjusting the boy's chair, speaking softly, asking if he needed help without ever making him feel embarrassed. No one knew that each of these simple gestures was being recorded, preserved in a way that would later touch thousands of people. The hidden camera became a silent witness to moments that were entirely genuine because Father Michael believed no one was watching. That belief, ironically, made him more authentic, more human, and more inspiring. He did not act for recognition or praise, he acted from habit, from conscience, from an innate desire to do what was right. As the minutes passed, the church filled with ordinary sounds, the creak of wooden floors, the faint echo of birds outside, and the soft shuffle of Father Michael's robes. Yet beneath this calm, the camera continued its quiet observation, capturing the extraordinary within the ordinary. And though Father Michael remained unaware, each moment of genuine care, each kind word, and every thoughtful gesture was being recorded in high definition, destined to reveal a side of him that few had ever seen before. By the time the morning sun climbed higher in the sky, the hidden camera had captured a series of seemingly small moments that, when pieced together, would tell a story far greater than anyone could have anticipated. The real magic of the day was not in dramatic events or loud surprises but in the quiet humanity of a man devoted to service, acting as he always did, without expectation, without performance, and without knowing that a camera was watching. The morning continued quietly, with everything seeming ordinary on the surface, yet underneath, the day was slowly preparing to reveal something extraordinary. Father Michael moved about the church as he always did, performing his morning routine with a rhythm that had become almost instinctive over the years. He adjusted hymnals, polished the wooden pews, and checked the candles along the altar. To anyone else, it might have looked like a simple, routine morning, but the camera in the corner was silently recording each movement, capturing the small details that made him who he was. Despite the calm, there was a warmth in the air, almost as if the church itself was aware of the kindness that flowed through its doors. The sunlight poured through the stained glass windows, painting the wooden floor in a kaleidoscope of colors, reds, blues, and golds swirling together in a silent dance. Father Michael paused to watch it, his eyes reflecting the vibrant patterns. Even in these small, quiet moments, there was a sense of peace that radiated from him, a calmness that could put anyone at ease. As the minutes passed, a few parishioners began to arrive, each greeted with the same warmth and genuine attention. A woman carrying groceries smiled as she entered, and Father Michael stepped forward to help her with a heavy bag. A young couple walked in quietly, holding hands, and he offered them a small nod and a gentle smile, asking how they had been. Each interaction, no matter how brief, was filled with sincerity. The camera recorded everything, the tiny gestures, the soft tone of his voice, the way he listened attentively without rushing, and the way he made everyone feel valued and seen. But the ordinary day had its surprises in store. As Father Michael continued his preparations, he noticed a small problem. A section of the pews near the back of the church had been slightly damaged. One of the wooden slats was loose, and it wobbled dangerously when someone sat on it. Without a second thought, he retrieved his toolkit and quietly began fixing it, humming softly as he worked. What could have been a simple repair became an example of his care and attention to detail. He didn't rush or complain, he worked patiently, making sure it was done properly. The camera captured every moment, including the focus in his eyes and the gentle care in his hands. Around mid-morning, a few children wandered in, curious and energetic, their laughter echoing through the church. Father Michael greeted them warmly, kneeling to speak at their level. He helped them light candles safely and guided them to the back of the church to sit quietly. The camera caught the ease with which he handled the unexpected chaos, his patience never faltering, and his calm presence transforming what could have been a disruption into a moment of connection and learning. Even the small routines of the day were captured in ways that revealed Father Michael's true character. As he arranged hymnals, straightened the altar cloth, or polished the brass fixtures, his actions were filled with intentionality. He treated each task as important, no matter how small, understanding that every detail contributed to the beauty and dignity of the church. In these moments, the camera captured the quiet discipline of a man who understood that even ordinary days were an opportunity to show care, respect, and integrity. By late morning, the church was alive with subtle activity, parishioners praying, children quietly exploring, and Father Michael moving gracefully between tasks. Everything appeared normal, but beneath the surface, the hidden camera had been capturing a series of small yet meaningful interactions. It recorded kindness in its purest form, patience without expectation, and a calm presence that could comfort anyone who entered the space. What seemed like an ordinary day on the outside was, in reality, filled with moments that would inspire and amaze anyone who later watched the footage. The ordinary, it turned out, was never truly ordinary. Each smile, each gentle word, and each thoughtful gesture was a quiet testament to the priest's character. The hidden camera, silent and unseen, had become a witness to a reality that few ever got to see, a man living his values fully, acting with love and care, even when no one else was watching. In this ordinary morning, the stage was being set for something extraordinary, moments that would later captivate hearts and leave viewers marveling at the simplicity and beauty of genuine humanity. Just as the morning seemed to flow with its usual calm, the ordinary rhythm of the church was interrupted by something completely unexpected. Father Michael was arranging the hymnals near the back pews when a sudden noise echoed through the otherwise quiet space. It was soft at first, a faint shuffle, almost like someone or something brushing against the wooden floor, but it quickly grew louder, catching his attention. He turned, expecting perhaps a late-arriving parishioner or a misplaced chair, but what he saw was something entirely different. A small stray dog had wandered into the church. Its fur was matted, and its eyes were wide with nervous curiosity. It padded carefully along the aisles, sniffing at the pews and occasionally looking up at Father Michael as if seeking guidance. The camera in the corner captured every second of this unexpected visitor, the hesitation in its steps, the way its tail twitched nervously, and the tiny whimper it let out as it approached the altar. Most people would have been startled or even shooed it away, but Father Michael simply paused, observing it calmly. He spoke softly, his voice gentle and reassuring. "It's okay, little one," he said, bending slightly so he could meet the dog's gaze. The animal froze for a moment, then slowly wagged its tail, sensing the kindness in his tone. Father Michael knelt down, extending a hand to the dog, not to force it, but to offer comfort. The camera caught the moment perfectly, the priest's patience, the dog's tentative trust, and the quiet bond that began to form in the middle of the church. As he guided the stray toward a corner of the church where it would be safe, Father Michael noticed something else. The dog carried a small, tattered envelope in its mouth, worn and crumpled as if it had traveled a long distance. Curious, he gently took it from the dog and carefully opened it. Inside was a short note, handwritten and slightly smudged. It read, "Please help me. I don't know where else to go." The camera caught every subtle reaction, the furrow of his brow, the soft sigh that escaped his lips, and the way his eyes reflected concern mixed with determination. Without hesitation, Father Michael placed the dog on a mat in a quiet corner of the church and began to think about how he could help. He called the local shelter to ensure the dog would be safe, and then he looked around for anyone who might have written the note. The camera captured every decision, every small action, as he worked calmly and carefully. Unlike most people who might panic or feel frustrated by the unexpected, he approached the situation with patience, kindness, and clear purpose. Then, just as he was finishing the call to the shelter, a young boy appeared at the church door. He looked anxious, clutching a small backpack, and his eyes immediately landed on Father Michael. The boy had been the one who left the note, and he had sent the dog as an unusual messenger, hoping the priest would understand and help. Father Michael greeted him gently, kneeling to speak at eye level. The camera captured their interaction, the boy's nervous hesitation, the trust he gradually placed in Father Michael, and the calm, reassuring presence of the priest as he listened to the boy's story. What could have been a chaotic or confusing moment became a scene of extraordinary compassion. Father Michael guided the boy to sit and spoke to him softly, asking questions with care and patience. He ensured the dog was safe and comfortable, all while giving his full attention to the child. The camera, hidden but unblinking, recorded every gesture of empathy, the way Father Michael adjusted the boy's backpack, offered words of comfort, and quietly promised to help. By the time the first parishioners arrived for mid-morning prayers, the unexpected event had transformed into a small but powerful story of trust and care. No one outside the church knew what had happened, and Father Michael continued his duties as if it were an ordinary day. Yet the hidden camera had captured something remarkable, a man responding to the unexpected with grace, courage, and unwavering kindness, leaving viewers who would later see it in awe of the quiet heroism displayed in the most ordinary of settings. Unseen and unnoticed, the hidden camera continued its quiet observation, recording every detail of what was unfolding in the church that morning. From the corner of the room, it captured Father Michael moving with calm determination, responding to the unexpected situation with patience and care. The little dog curled up in the corner, looking more relaxed now, its eyes reflecting trust, while the young boy sat nearby, still anxious but slowly finding reassurance in the priest's presence. Every subtle movement, every glance, and every gentle word was preserved in perfect clarity, creating a record of authenticity that no one outside the church could yet appreciate. Father Michael, completely unaware of the camera, acted as he always did, from the heart. He guided the boy gently, asking him questions in a soft, deliberate tone, listening not just to his words but to the unspoken fears and worries that a child sometimes cannot put into sentences. The camera captured the way he leaned closer, making himself smaller to meet the boy at eye level, and how he nodded reassuringly at every hesitant answer. These small gestures, invisible to the casual observer, revealed a depth of empathy that only someone truly dedicated to serving others could possess. Meanwhile, the little dog shifted on its mat, sniffing the edges of the corner, but remaining calm under Father Michael's watchful eye. The camera caught the priest reaching out to gently stroke its head, not in a grand or exaggerated manner, but simply in a way that showed care and patience. The contrast between the quiet chaos of the unexpected moment and the calm presence of the priest made the footage strikingly compelling. It was a scene of quiet heroism, the kind that doesn't seek applause or attention, yet leaves an impression that lingers long after it's over. The camera's lens continued to follow every subtle interaction. When the boy hesitated, wringing his hands nervously, Father Michael's voice softened further, encouraging him with words that were both kind and grounding. "It's all right," he said. "You're safe here. We'll figure this out together." The boy's shoulders relaxed slightly, a small sigh escaping him, and the dog lifted its head, sensing the calm energy in the room. The camera captured all of this, the tension dissolving, replaced by trust and understanding. Even the smallest moments were recorded with perfect clarity. Father Michael picked up a blanket and placed it near the dog, making sure it had something soft to lie on. He arranged a small bowl with water, ensuring the animal's comfort. Each action was deliberate, thoughtful, and compassionate, and the camera captured the tiny details, the way his fingers carefully smoothed the fabric, the gentle tilt of his head, the quiet focus in his eyes. These were ordinary acts, yet in the context of the moment, they became extraordinary, showing the natural kindness of a man who truly cared for those in need, whether human or animal. As the boy began to talk about why he had sent the dog, the camera captured Father Michael listening intently, nodding and responding in ways that encouraged him to speak more freely. It caught the subtle changes in his expression, concern, understanding, and gentle reassurance, each one reflecting a deep emotional intelligence. The priest never interrupted, never judged, and never let his own schedule or worries interfere with the moment. Every frame recorded by the camera told the story of a man who lived his values fully, whose authenticity shone through in ways that words alone could never capture. By mid-morning, the quiet church had become a place of subtle miracles. A frightened child was comforted, a stray animal was cared for, and all of it was recorded by the small, unassuming camera in the corner. It captured not just the actions, but the energy, the humanity, and the soul of the moment. Father Michael remained unaware, continuing his ordinary duties, straightening hymnals, checking candles, and greeting the few parishioners who had arrived, yet the footage preserved the extraordinary reality of what had just unfolded. What the camera captured was simple, yet profoundly moving: patience when it would have been easier to rush, kindness when it would have been simpler to ignore, and presence when no one else was paying attention. It showed a man acting with pure intention, and in doing so, it created a record that would later astonish and inspire anyone who watched it. The hidden observer had documented something far greater than a routine day. It had caught the heart and soul of a true act of compassion, waiting silently to be revealed to the world. Michael continued his routines as if nothing extraordinary had occurred. He greeted parishioners with his gentle smile, tended to the altar, and quietly helped those in need, completely unaware of the tiny camera that had recorded every moment of that day. The footage, however, was no longer just on the camera's memory card. It had been reviewed by the documentary team, and what they saw left them speechless. As the team played the recording, the ordinary church interior transformed into something far more extraordinary. Father Michael's every movement, every word, every small gesture of care and patience, came alive on the screen. The way he comforted the frightened boy, tended to the stray dog, and handled the unexpected situation with calm, unwavering kindness, it was all captured in crisp detail. The team had expected a simple documentary about daily church life, but this footage went beyond anything they had imagined. It wasn't just interesting, it was profoundly moving. The revelation began quietly, with murmurs of astonishment from the team members. "Look at how naturally he does everything," one whispered, leaning closer to see the boy's face relaxing as Father Michael spoke, the dog curling safely in the corner. "He's not performing, he's just himself," another added, voice full of awe. Each member watched intently, realizing they had captured something rare, genuine human goodness, displayed without expectation, and preserved in the most authentic way. The footage was later shared with a few local collaborators who had connections in social media and content creation. Almost immediately, people began to recognize the uniqueness of the moments captured. Clips highlighting Father Michael's quiet heroism, the gentle way he guided the boy, the calm patience he showed the stray dog, started circulating online. Comments flooded in from viewers who were touched by his humility, impressed by his compassion, and amazed that someone could act with such sincerity without knowing anyone was watching. What made the revelation even more striking was the simplicity of it all. There were no dramatic gestures, no flashy heroics, no staged performances. Just one man quietly doing what was right, fully present, and entirely aware of the needs around him. The camera had captured these subtle acts in a way that words alone could never convey. Every glance, every reassuring smile, every patient pause became proof that true kindness often exists in the most ordinary moments, unnoticed by the world until someone is finally paying attention. As the footage gained traction online, more people began visiting St. Mary's Church, curious to witness the place where these quiet acts of compassion had occurred. Local media caught wind of the story, featuring short clips of Father Michael interacting with the boy and the dog. People were inspired not just by the events themselves, but by the priest's humility. Despite becoming the center of attention, Father Michael remained completely unaware of the growing admiration. For him, nothing had changed. He continued to focus on the people who walked through the church doors, offering the same patience, care, and guidance as always. The revelation also sparked deeper conversations among viewers. Many spoke about the power of unseen moments, the importance of authenticity, and the quiet ways in which one person can make a difference in the lives of others. Psychologists, community leaders, and ordinary people alike praised Father Michael's actions as a rare example of human empathy and moral integrity. It became clear that the hidden camera had not just recorded an ordinary morning, it had uncovered a story that resonated with the values of honesty, compassion, and selfless care. The team who had set up the camera realized that their small project had unexpectedly captured something extraordinary. The footage was more than a documentary. It was a testament to the idea that true character is revealed not in public recognition, but in private acts of love and kindness. And as the world discovered the story, the priest himself remained blissfully unaware, tending to his parishioners with the same quiet devotion, unknowingly inspiring thousands and leaving an indelible mark on everyone who witnessed his actions through the camera's lens. In the end, the revelation was not just about a video being seen, it was about people realizing the beauty of authenticity and the power of small, selfless acts. What had begun as an ordinary morning inside a quiet church became a global reminder that kindness, patience, and compassion are most remarkable when no one is looking. Once the footage of Father Michael had been shared online, the reaction was immediate and astonishing. People from across the town, the state, and eventually the world began to see what the hidden camera had captured, a man responding to unexpected events with pure kindness, patience, and calm presence. Within hours, social media platforms were buzzing with clips of the priest guiding the nervous boy, comforting the stray dog, and handling the situation with unwavering compassion. The story wasn't sensational because of drama or danger, it was sensational because of authenticity, something viewers rarely saw in such a raw and honest form. The comments poured in like a river. "This is what humanity should look like," one viewer wrote. "I've never seen such quiet kindness," said another. Parents praised him for the gentle way he treated the child. Animal lovers admired his care for the dog. Even those who had never set foot in a church felt inspired, recognizing the universal message, that true goodness exists in simple, everyday moments. The footage sparked heartfelt discussions about empathy, morality, and what it means to be truly selfless. The priest had become a symbol of hope in a world that often felt cynical and disconnected. Local news outlets caught wind of the story, quickly broadcasting clips of the viral footage. Headlines read, "Small Town Priest Shows Extraordinary Compassion," and "Camera Captures Quiet Acts of Heroism in Church." Interviews followed, not with Father Michael, who remained blissfully unaware, but with parishioners and neighbors who spoke about his character. Everyone painted the same picture, a humble, kind, and deeply caring man, whose actions that morning were only a natural reflection of his everyday life. The media coverage amplified the story, and soon people from other countries began sharing the clips, translating captions, and spreading the message of compassion and humanity across borders. The viral sensation did something unexpected. It sparked action. Viewers shared stories of their own communities, highlighting moments of kindness they had witnessed or performed. Schools used the video to teach children about empathy. Charities highlighted the importance of helping those in need. Social media campaigns encouraged random acts of kindness, inspired by the calm, quiet heroism of one small-town priest. In a world obsessed with celebrity and spectacle, the story of Father Michael reminded people that true inspiration often comes from ordinary people doing extraordinary things. Meanwhile, the documentary team that had installed the camera was stunned by the sheer scale of the reaction. They had hoped for a few insightful clips for their project, perhaps a story about daily life inside the church, but they never expected the video to resonate with so many. Their tiny, hidden camera had captured something far bigger than a documentary. It had captured a movement of awareness, showing that integrity, kindness, and patience are timeless values that touch people deeply when they are witnessed authentically. Yet despite the sudden attention and online acclaim, Father Michael carried on with his life as if nothing had changed. He continued to prepare the church, greet parishioners with his usual warmth, and quietly help anyone who walked through the doors. He did not understand why so many strangers were watching clips of him online or why the world suddenly seemed interested in a quiet morning in his church. To him, it was simply life, the same life he had lived every day, guided by his values and a sense of duty to help those around him. The juxtaposition of global attention and his humble routine became part of the fascination. People were inspired by the contrast. One man, unknown to the world, whose quiet, unassuming acts of goodness had touched thousands. Teachers, psychologists, and motivational speakers began using the footage to discuss empathy, moral courage, and the importance of selfless actions. The story became more than a video, it became an example, a lesson, and a reminder that people who act from the heart can influence lives far beyond what they could ever imagine. In the end, the public reaction was a testament not just to the power of social media, but to the enduring impact of authentic human behavior. The camera had captured what everyone secretly wanted to believe, that selflessness, patience, and compassion could exist without recognition. And while the world celebrated Father Michael's extraordinary morning, he continued his ordinary life, unaware of the profound inspiration he had provided. Through the lens of that hidden camera, a small act of kindness became a global story, showing that even in silence and simplicity, greatness can be witnessed, admired, and shared. After the video of Father Michael went viral, people around the world had watched, shared, and celebrated his quiet acts of kindness, yet in the Church of Willowbrook, life continued as if nothing had changed. The priest carried on with his daily routines, adjusting hymnals, lighting candles, and greeting parishioners with his familiar warmth. He had no idea that his ordinary morning had touched thousands of hearts, inspired strangers, and sparked conversations about humanity. For him, there had been no intention of heroism, only the natural unfolding of compassion and duty. What made the story so remarkable was its simplicity. Father Michael had not performed for an audience, nor had he sought recognition. He had acted out of genuine concern, responding to the unexpected in a way that anyone could emulate if they allowed themselves to pause, observe, and act with kindness. The hidden camera had captured the authenticity of the moment, revealing the profound truth that our character is measured not in public applause, but in the quiet choices we make when no one is watching. The footage continued to circulate online, but it became more than a viral story, it became a lesson in empathy. People began reflecting on their own actions, asking themselves how they might respond in unexpected situations. Could they offer patience instead of frustration? Comfort instead of judgment? Help instead of turning away? Father Michael's example reminded the world that small acts, offering a reassuring word, tending to someone in need, or simply showing calm presence, can ripple far beyond their immediate context. Even the smallest details of that morning became symbolic. The way he knelt to speak to the boy, the careful placement of a blanket for the dog, the soft, patient tone of his voice, all of these seemingly insignificant actions were now seen as a model of human decency. The camera had immortalized what often goes unnoticed, the power of quiet, consistent goodness. And the lesson was clear: true virtue does not require recognition, only the willingness to act rightly when circumstances demand it. In Willowbrook, people began sharing their own stories of quiet kindness, inspired by the viral video. Teachers told their students about the priest, encouraging them to notice opportunities to help others. Local volunteers felt motivated to care for stray animals or assist neighbors in need. Even distant viewers shared how the story had changed their perspective, prompting them to pause in their busy lives and consider how simple acts of compassion could leave a lasting impression. Father Michael's morning had become more than a story, it had become a movement of mindfulness and empathy. The hidden camera, once a silent observer, had unintentionally documented a universal truth, that our humanity is revealed in the little things, in moments that may seem ordinary but carry immense significance. People realized that heroism does not always require grand gestures or dramatic events. Sometimes, it exists quietly in the mundane, in how one treats a frightened child, a stray animal, or anyone in need. This revelation resonated deeply because it was real, unpolished, and utterly relatable. Father Michael, meanwhile, remained blissfully unaware of his growing fame. For him, the morning had been nothing extraordinary, it was simply another day at St. Mary's Church. Yet unknowingly, he had given the world a powerful example of integrity, patience, and love in action. The story served as a gentle reminder that our lives, however ordinary they may seem, can touch countless others when we act from the heart. In the end, the true moral of the story was simple yet profound. The camera had captured a man living authentically, revealing that the measure of a person is not in how they appear to the world, but in how they behave when no one is looking. Every smile, every comforting gesture, every patient word mattered. Through his quiet actions, Father Michael showed that kindness is contagious, that integrity is inspiring, and that the smallest moments of compassion can create ripples far beyond what we can imagine. The story of the priest, the boy, and the stray dog became a timeless reminder: greatness often hides in silence, and the most extraordinary moments arise from simple acts of genuine humanity.